Welcome to Loose Pausibilities, where we break from the bad news to look at stories of triumph involving real people facing real-life challenges. You'll meet some friends of mine who have survived and thrived, sometimes in the face of great odds and seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Their inspirational stories have motivated and encouraged me, and I believe they will give you glimmers of hope to keep trying, keep believing, and keep receiving the best that life has to offer. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of good old sweet tea and come, let's pause and ponder the positive possibilities that await us all. The Russell Erskine Hotel was the dream of 50 investors who wanted to build the grandest hotel in the area. The construction appraisal was just over $614,000 in 1929 when the unthinkable happened. The stock market crashed. The investors had a choice. They could cut their losses or persevere despite the dire economic situation. Let's talk with one of the members of the Huntsville Historic Preservation Commission who previously served as the chairman of the board of the historic Huntsville Foundation and find out how this hotel survived the Great Depression. I'm here today with Mike Holbrook, who is the Project Management Director for Fuquay and Partners Architects here in Huntsville, Alabama. Mike, you have been involved in a number of local historic preservation projects, and today, if you don't mind, I would like you to elaborate just a little bit on a few of those for us, please.
Well, we're sitting here in the Russell Erskine Hotel, which was one of the significant projects.
The hotel was conceptualized around 1927, but it was actually under construction in 1929. It was finished in 1930. So the fact that the group of investors had the vision and the drive to get it to go ahead and succeed and become the grand dame of Huntsville, Alabama, just to me is a very inspirational success story. Mike, would you elaborate on that a little bit for me, please?
Even though the project was conceived in the 20s, at the latter part of the roaring 20s, when things were really good, it was indeed constructed and finished after the Depression of October 1929. The original developers of the Huntsville Hotel Company include names that we would recognize today: Goldsmith, Schiffman, Terry, Hutchins, and a handful of others, each of which deposited seed money into an account. They were original investors. They did seek some local funding from other investors that bought shares in the project. And with that, they engaged the architects and the engineers to get the design started and to purchase the land. They knew that in order to finish the construction that they would have to seek some type of financing. They went as far as New York, Chicago, New Orleans, places in Ohio. But after several failed attempts, I think they finally secured funding from an investment company in Louisville. So they had most of the funds they needed in order to start the project and get the construction underway. Although each of the original investors continued to put in their own money over time, even after the hotel opened, because they had such a vision for what it could be, even after the economy sort of took a turn for the worse.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about the glory days of the hotel itself. Lawrence Goldsmith Jr. would bring his daughter, Margaret Ann Goldsmith, here for several months during the year to spend time at the hotel. Did she tell you any of the stories about the hotel's early days?
Well, of course, almost anything that was of magnitude happened at the Russell Erskine during that time. I mean, there were weddings, there were all types of civic groups that met here on a regular basis. There were rallies, there were proms, there were just really all of Huntsville life seemed to happen at the Russell Erskine during that time. And you're right, Margaret Ann lived a good portion of her life here from early childhood, I think 3 or 4 years old, up until she was 12 years old. She has recanted many of stories of running up and down the stairs.
Up all 12 flights?
Yes, yes. and just playing. I mean, this was her playground. She has such a treasure of knowledge of what really occurred in this hotel for many years.
What were some of the features when it first opened that made it so special?
Well, one of the things that's most unusual is that not only did it have a radio in every room, but it had ice cold running water in each room. But that was a very unique feature of the hotel. One of the visions of the company, the hotel company, was that it would be the best of the best.
The vision was that it would compare to the Waldorf Astoria and some of the grander hotels, and so it had features that were just not seen, as you said, in a sleepy little town of Huntsville, Alabama. What else would you have seen if you had wandered in off the street?
Well, obviously there was a coffee shop, and it had a restaurant, full menu dining room. It had a newsstand and bookstore, cigar stand, a beauty shop, barber shop, pretty much anything that you would expect to find in any urban hotel.
And I think that is one of the most remarkable parts of this story, that this group of people had such a vision that they overcame adversity and followed their dream, and that is what made the Russell Erskine the centerpiece of Huntsville society for over 40 years. We'll be right back to look at some of the marvelous architectural details in the hotel. We've been chatting about how the Russell Erskine Hotel succeeded despite the Great Depression. Jimmy Taylor was one of the original bellhops who later became general manager. He said that the hotel provided a facility for everything but funerals. In 1980, the building was named to the National Register of Historic Places. And once again, the townspeople stepped up to save it from an unsavory fate when it was converted to apartments for the elderly. Mike Holbrook was a leader in historic preservation when the building was rehabilitated in 2004. He's going to show us a few of the treasures found at the Russell Erskine. Something that was intriguing to me was the leaning rail. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for me, please?
When we were doing the survey, I made just hundreds of photos so that it would remind me to add that to the scope of work to straighten the rail up. We realized that we really could not straighten the rail back up without doing more damage to the historic wood rail that's on top. So we decided to leave it as it is, and it will be forever known as the leaning rail.
I just love this colorful painting of the Russell Erskine Hotel, but one thing that I noticed that's missing was the sign that was on the very top. Can you tell me a little bit about the signage on the hotel?
Yes, when we rehabbed the hotel, we did not put the sign back. I think it was lost sometime after the 50s just due to disrepair. But one thing we did recreate was the original sign that was on the corner of the building. Actually, we were one of the first, and we had to get special permission to actually put the sign back on the corner of the building.
This used to be the private dining room entrance, but now it's the entrance to the restroom instead. Can you explain that, please?
Well, one of the things that the developers of the project really wanted to do was to make the project available for the community to enjoy. So out of the previous room that was just a large open room that was a private dining room, we created a male and female restroom and a caterer's kitchen behind it. But the challenge we had this historic terrazzo floor that we didn't want to damage. So when we built the walls, all of the walls are actually stuck to the floor with double-sided tape. Double-sided tape. So we did not put holes in the terrazzo because we didn't want to damage it.
Okay.
So the walls are secured to the floor with double-sided tape and secured to the ceiling above. And so that's really the only damage, except for one hole that we had to drill in the back in order to get the plumbing out for the toilets. And one of the reasons we didn't want to damage the terrazzo is the damage that's already evident along the perimeter of the room. And any idea what that's from? Carpet.
Oh.
That's from carpet tack strips that was put down. It didn't do the damage going in, it did the damage coming out. And so basically around the entire perimeter of the lobby area and the ballroom, you'll see damage to the terrazzo.
You know, the windows here are very grand. They have beautiful window furnishings, and I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about that.
So looking at old photographs, we were able to determine what the style of the drapes were, but we didn't really know what the color was. Although doing a little more research, we found out what the color was, and so we set forth the design for the drapes. A local drapery maker custom made the drapes to match the original. And when Jimmy Taylor looked at those, he said, "I would swear those were the same drapes if I didn't know better."
Why in the world would this little area with these little walls be significant to the restoration of the hotel?
When they turned this into housing with apartments, they had to create a fire-rated corridor. So when we were doing our survey of the building, one of the things I did is I came up here and I actually removed one of the ceiling tiles, and I looked up and I was absolutely flabbergasted. The crown molding that still exists. It appears to be the original decorative color of the crown molding.
So that's how you kind of found out the color.
That's exactly how we found out
of how to restore the crown molding.
Exactly. We brought our paint swatches up here and matched it best we can, and then had a demo done, and we liked it, and so that's what we went with.
Y'all were very active in assembling this little collection of memorabilia. Would you tell me about some of the items?
One of our board members donated an original room key. One of our board members was at an antique shop in Maryland and found one of the postcards.
In Maryland?
In Maryland.
So is this an original letter from the famous actress Tallulah Bankhead that was born here in Huntsville?
It is a copy of the original letter from Tallulah Bankhead that was written to Mr. Goldsmith.
There is a photograph of one of the former governors of Alabama.
Yes, Governor Patterson stayed here quite a bit, and at one time actually donated a portrait of himself that hung in the lobby for many years.
This is part of the original elevator, and I can remember this scared me to death. Tell people about it.
The elevator operators actually had to have quite a bit of finesse to turn the crank to stop you exactly on the floor.
And I can remember being a little girl in this very hotel and not stopping exactly on the floor, which is one reason it kind of scared me.
Yeah, Jimmy Taylor had to finesse even at the age of 80 to do that. This is one of the original light fixtures from one of the rooms.
Oh, wow.
And it was actually purchased by one of the historic Huntsville board members' daughters, and it was donated for permanent display.
Now, this is the only column in the building that has this architectural interest, this feature here. Would you tell me about that, please?
It's a Corinthian capital, one of the three Greek orders. And even though this is a classical building, even though it was built during the Deco period, there's really no real Deco design here. It's very classical architecture.
When I first visited here a couple of weeks ago, there were two balls, one on top of each one of these posts, but the reading that I did said that they periodically get stolen. Why can't we figure out a way to get these balls to stick on this column?
Well, there's probably a way, and quite frankly, we didn't think about it, but when we did do the restoration, we added balls both to these pilasters and the one downstairs. The one downstairs are still there for whatever reason, and I'm surprised to see these are missing. So apparently they do go missing.
They do go missing. You know, I was going to say maybe Gorilla Glue,
yeah, exactly.
Super Glue.
Some epoxy glue would probably take care of it.
There you go. You've been a great sport. So thankful that you've come on the show. Very appreciative of your expertise in letting us borrow you for an evening.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. The original investors of the Russell Erskine faced some unexpected and uncertain circumstances during that building process, which could have caused that project to derail. Sometimes life just throws an unexpected monkey wrench into your plans, as I personally know all too well. I underwent a major life transition a few years ago. Daunted by the prospect of being single again after a 25-year-long marriage, I had some tough choices to make, and like those investors, I decided to persevere. While facing the fears of living life without a mate, I was simultaneously given a unique opportunity to face my lifelong and very literal fear of falling. Stay tuned and watch how I survived going over the edge. I still can't believe I did it. I actually rappelled from the top of the historic Times building, which is 12 stories tall, in spite of my lifelong fear of falling. It was an awesome experience. It was indescribable. One of the reasons I want to share that with whoever is watching this video can be found in the words of one of my favorite poets, Emily Dickinson, who said, "If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not have lived in vain." This was a big deal for me, bigger than for any adventurer, because I do indeed still have that fear of falling. I was hoping that I would conquer that fear, but I do still have it. But what I did learn is that you can do anything that you want to do if you believe that you can do it. I want to tell you about my inspiration for being able to take this big step, and that is my children, Amanda and Ethan. They are my heart. They are the loves of my life. And each of them at different times in their lives have overcome obstacles in spite of being told that they couldn't do a certain thing. They have accomplished things in spite of doubters and naysayers. And they gave me the inspiration to go out and do this. It was a wonderful cause, the Heart of the Valley YMCA. But I also did it just to prove that you can overcome your fears. Whatever you may be battling, whatever you may be facing today, whether you're battling disease, cancer, a bad relationship, the need to switch careers, to change jobs, or just to reinvent yourself, I want you to know that if I can rappel off of that building at my age, you too can overcome your fears, whatever they are. You just need to trust in God to hold the ropes, and that the angels will be there to cheer you on, like they were for me when I rappelled off of the top of the Times building. I'm not saying it will be easy, or without drama, or without some bumps and bruises, as you will see happen to me when I went over the edge in this video. Rappelling instructor for UAH, and he is the only reason, him and God, that I got off that cliff the other day. It was only 45 foot high, and he has graciously agreed to give up his time to come and help me go off the building today.
She did an outstanding job last weekend. She's got this no problem. She was a great student, actually. She did very well.
You're not telling how you had to, well, assist me up the rock?
No, well, that was the climbing part.
Okay.
The rappelling part you had down with the chain.
Yeah, we have an elevator over here, so that's going to be good. Are we ready?
Absolutely.
Going down the stairwell is pretty easy. The worst part is going over the edge. That's the worst part, so that's what I'm worried about. But this is going to be all right. These guys are great. Oh, God, don't. Right now? So I'm about to come over is what you're saying. I'm putting my knees on the I can't wait on Buck. I'm going to have a panic attack. Buck needs to get his butt over the edge. Just tell me when I can go. I want to go now.
Actually, if you want to go ahead and start, you're not going to make it down before he gets all the way down. So he'll be able to film you, no problem.
You're doing good. Weight will be in your harness.
Is it what's my knee?
All right.
Just like start.
Yes, I think
You want to go start?
once he's going over, you can probably start.
Yeah. Just go nice and slow.
Push the thing.
Just start going down a little bit. So squeeze gently. Start going down a little bit.
I had never had a panic attack in my entire life, but as I was hanging literally suspended 12 stories high above the asphalt where over 50 of my friends, family members, and business associates had gathered to watch my descent, well, let's just say that's the closest I've ever been to having one. My palms were sweating, my throat was dry, and yes, the thought of crawling back onto the safety of that rooftop was foremost in my mind. Come, take a look at how I managed to stay the course despite the interminably long delay I experienced.
Weight will be in your harness.
Is it what's my knee?
All right.
I just like start.
Yes, I think
You want to go start?
once he's going over, you can probably start.
Yeah. Just go nice and slow.
Push the thing.
Just start going down a little bit. So squeeze gently. Start going down a little bit. You can start pushing your feet out now.
There you go. Put your feet out. Into an L.
They made me stay on top of the dang roof for a long time.
You rock, girlie, you rock.
Congratulations.
Hey, get over here. Oh. This is my daughter. She's one of my inspirations. She has done several things in life that people said she couldn't do, and she did it anyway. And so did my son, and they are my inspiration, because if they can do things that people say you can't do, then it was Mom's son. I love you. Good. I'm so proud of you. Woo! There you have it. That was me going over the edge for the Heart of the Valley YMCA. I would like to thank all of my many friends, family members, colleagues, and business associates that came out to watch me, to all of the donors that contributed money to this wonderful cause. I'd like to thank our military for serving. This was Armed Forces Week that we did this, and I would like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to live in a country where we can go out and overcome any of our fears at any time. Thank you so much. There you have it. 2 stories about perseverance through uncertainty and adversity. We learned that the main difference between failure and success is to stay the course. You must never give up. Join us next time as we ponder the positive possibilities that await us all.